Okay, you're live. Hi, everyone. My name is Blossom. I'm the Literary Artistic Associate for New Native Theater. And today we have with us for our Anti-Superpower Workshop is Maggie. And I'll let Maggie take it away from here.
Hello, everybody. Like Blossom said, my name is Maggie Lorenz. I am Dakota and Ojibwe. My Dakota name is Pabaksawi, which means cuthead woman. And let's see, I live here in the Twin Cities in Minneapolis. I'm enrolled at Turtle Mountain, and I'm also from Spirit Lake. But I was born and raised here in the Twin Cities in St. Paul, Minneapolis. And I was asked to come here today to talk about Cedar. So I'm going to do that. And, Cedar is one of the, my favorite medicines. It's just kind of like a cure-all. I feel like there's just so many benefits from cedar tea. And I know this workshop is really focused around cedar tea specifically, but I just feel like there's so many different uses and different teachings, I guess, that I have about cedar. So I kind of wanted to share some of those things too, to kind of get started. So like I said, I'm Dakota and Ojibwe, but in my life, the kind of path that I follow is Dakota Wichoha. So I kind of follow Dakota ways, and some of the teachings that I have come, to know about cedar, or in Dakota we say hante, is that this is one of the medicines that is kind of like everybody kind of knows that this is one of our 4 sacred medicines: cedar, sage, sweetgrass, and chanshasha or tobacco. But the wakias, or the thunder beings in Dakota world, are our protector and like a champion for the people, and are always working to protect us and rid the world of evil. That's kind of their role in our stories and in our lives. So cedar is one of their favorite medicines, and it's just a favorite scent of the Wakians. So that's one of the teachings that we have as Dakota people. And so one of the uses for cedar is to burn it during, if there's like a thunderstorm, and if you burn cedar, they say that lightning will never strike cedar. So it's something that our people have always kind of throw some cedar on the fire, or if you're nowadays in our homes, maybe just you can smudge with cedar during a thunderstorm. It's like protection from lightning strikes. So that's one of the kind of protective properties, I guess, for cedar. And I'm just going to, I started this, and I'm using my camera, but I kind of started some cedar tea here on my stove. So it just started boiling. So I'm actually going to turn this down now to what's it called? Simmer? Yeah. I'm going to turn it down to simmer while we're talking. And I'll talk more about why you don't just hard boil it the whole time a little bit when we get to cedar tea. But yeah, so that's kind of one of the teachings that I have that I wanted to kind of share about cedar and the Wakias. It's like one of their favorite scents. And so it's used in a lot of ceremonial settings for as an offering. So some people, I think, talk about like when we smudge with sage, it's like to clear energy. And for some of the teachings that I have about cedar is that we don't necessarily use cedar to burn it as a smudge, but we more use cedar to burn as an offering to the spirits, because they like that scent. And so it's like an offering for protection a lot of times. So you'll see it used a lot at like Sundance ceremonies and any ceremonies that involve the Wakias specifically. And so this medicine is associated with Waziata, or the north. And as you know, like up north is where like the pines and everything grow. And so this medicine is associated with that direction. And it's, let's see, what else was I going to say? Yeah, so like some of the different uses besides tea is that you can burn it during the thunderstorms to protect yourself, as an offering, again, as an offering to the spirits and the Wakinas. And then you can also use it on the rocks during sweat. It's used extensively during Sundance. And then there's also use as like a tea or a bath for healing and medicinal purposes. And it can also be used as like a seasoning for food. So I'll talk about that a little bit, I guess. For food, one of the ways that I've used cedar is when I make buffalo tongue. So that's kind of a traditional food for, Dakota people, we're buffalo people. So buffalo tongue is like a delicacy, I guess, or like, kind of one of the best parts of the meat. And so to prepare it, there are lots of different ways that you can prepare it, but one of the ways that I've prepared it that I really like is you can just take some cedar boughs, I guess, or whatever they're called, cedar branches, like this. And so you just take the whole thing, take a few of them and like line it along the bottom of like a crock pot. And so you line it with the cedar on the bottom of the crock pot, then you put the buffalo tongue in there and you just put it on there with the hide and everything still on it. And you'll remove that later. And then you fill it with water to cover it, and then you put a bunch of juniper berries in there. And that's pretty much it. And then you put that on, low for like whatever, 8 hours or something. And then by the time that's done, it just has this really amazing flavor. And then you take the hide off, and then you can kind of like cut the tongue up into like, I don't know, however you want to prepare it, I guess, whatever you're going to use it for, but you can cut it into slices for like sandwiches and stuff. But so that's one way I've used cedar in cooking too, for like a seasoning to add flavor to different kinds of traditional foods and stuff. So, so cedar tea is, one of my favorite teas to drink. It's so good. There are so many like different herbal and medicinal teas that we drink that are really bitter, or you want to add a lot of like different sweeteners or something to it, maybe to make it taste better. But cedar, I feel like I could just drink that straight up on its own all the time because it's so good. But I've also heard that like cedar tea, you shouldn't drink more than like a cup a day for like 4 days in a row, because of all the oils could like eventually like make you start not feeling so good. So it's very powerful medicine too. So you really don't need like a ton of it. Like 1 cup of cedar tea will just really do so much in terms of like medicine and healing. And so, but another like way that I've found to use cedar tea is in a bath as well. And so I use cedar baths a lot for my kids because they don't like anything that's like not hot Cheetos and Takis. So, but if they're kind of feeling like they're getting sick, or just general well-being, I guess, I will prepare the cedar like I'm preparing tea. And then instead of taking that pot and like divvying it up into cups, I'll just pour that pot into a bath and then have them soak in it for 20 minutes or something. And I, for myself, I kind of heard about cedar baths and I was like, oh, I don't know if I would want to, I'll just drink my cedar tea. Like, I don't know if I would want to have a bath of cedar. But one night I was feeling really like, when you're just like, you can tell you're getting sick. And I could just feel like I was getting really run down, getting a headache, all that. Like I could tell I was going to get sick that next day. And so I thought, I'm going to try this cedar bath that I heard about. So I made a pot of cedar tea and then I poured it in the bath, and I just sat in the bath for like, 20 minutes, half an hour. And I went to bed, and the next day I felt like there was no trace of any kind of illness. And for me, that was really huge because I can always tell when I'm going to get sick. And then the next day, sure enough, like I'm really sick feeling. And it just never happened at that time or whatever, because I caught it early enough and I took that cedar bath, and it was just so healing. I never ended up getting sick, or that sickness just took care of itself before I really started feeling the effects of it. So, and then I saw in the chat that, people say that cedar baths can be really calming. They also can be very, just calming, protective, and healing just for your general health and well-being. And another one of my teaching that my auntie gave me is that, like, when a woman's done with her time, her monthly time, that you can take a cedar bath to kind of just, I don't know, like enter yourself into like going out into the world and stuff again. Because one of the teachings that we have as Dakota people is that during a woman's time, those four days, she'll kind of almost isolate herself a little bit, not really go out visiting around and not cooking food and different stuff like that, and just focusing on your prayers and things. So once you're done with that time, then you can take a nice cedar bath and then just kind of be in a good way to like go back out into visiting around and everything like that. So that's kind of one of the other teachings that I have from one of my aunties. So so cedar tea, it's pretty simple to make. It's you really can just I have, like I said, this 4-quart pot back here, and I put like a handful of cedar leaves in there, and you bring it to a boil. And then once you bring it to a boil, you immediately turn it down to simmer. And I think this is called, not a tea, but I think it's called like an infusion, because you're really actually, I guess there's a difference between, I've been learning teas and infusions, because a tea is really like more like just like using herbs to like flavor some water for pleasure drinking. So when you get like a box of tea, it will say like to steep it for 3 to 5 minutes. Like, that's tea. You're not really getting the medicine out of the plant by only steeping it for like 3 to 5 minutes. Maybe a little bit, but really not pulling out all that medicine. So an infusion is when you're taking the plant material and you're giving it a longer period of time to really draw that medicine out. And you can do that by either heating it, like I'm doing with the cedar right now, on like a low for like 20 minutes. A lot of people will do like a cold infusion too, where you just put herbs in like water and leave it out overnight for like 8 hours. And then you strain that plant material out, and then you drink it that way as a cold infusion. But that longer steeping time will really help draw out all of the medicine. But for the cedar, you don't want to boil it too long, because if you boil it at that high temperature for too long, it will really start destroying those the vitamin C and the other compounds, I guess, in there that are really the medicine that you want. So you don't want to hard boil it for too long. So just bring it to a boil and then just kind of let it simmer for a good 20-30 minutes. And then, cedar is really good for all kinds of things, but really improving your respiratory. Like I said, it has a ton of vitamin C. I think I said that. So a lot anti-inflammatory stuff for like arthritis or rheumatism. There's a story that I heard about cedar tea, like way back in like the 1500s. There was a French explorer in like the Canada, like northeast region. His name was Jacques Cartier, and he had like a group of like 100 explorers or whatever with him, and they all came down with scurvy, which was kind of common, I guess, back then for people who are like traveling by sea, because scurvy is like a lack of vitamin C. So anyways, the story that I heard was that basically this man, the explorer, he didn't want to kind of tell the native tribes that were neighboring him that they were all sick, because that's like a weakness, and he thought maybe they would take advantage of that or whatever. And but anyways, they eventually found out, or he eventually told them, because they were really starting to die off. A lot of his men were starting to die, and he didn't know what to do. And so the group that was there was the Haudenosaunee, the native people who were there, and they showed him how to make cedar tea. So they made the cedar tea, and they offered it to the group of French explorers or whatever, and they apparently didn't were kind of scared. They didn't want to. They thought they were being poisoned. But then some of them who were really, really sick decided to volunteer and drink the tea, and they immediately like started getting well. And so then everybody started drinking the cedar tea. And so I guess there was this big cedar kind of near where they were living. And then by the end of the winter, that cedar tree was like completely stripped of all of its leaves because they drank all the cedar tea and they were all healed. And so I just thought that was such an amazing story for a couple of reasons. One, because even with this like language barrier between the Haudenosaunee and the French explorers that were here, the native people were still able to like properly diagnose that illness and then find a medicine that was able to heal all of them with that language barrier. And so it was just amazing to me how much our ancestors knew about plant medicines, how in tune they were with their bodies and being able to diagnose that illness. So I just thought that was like a pretty cool story. So anyways, I guess that explorer is the one who kind of gave cedar trees their name, in their scientific name, which is like Arbor Vitae, which means the tree of life. And so that's kind of that story that goes with that. But the cedar that you kind of like want to use for, for medicine, there's lots of different kinds of cedar. And the cedar that is kind of like preferred, I guess, is like northern white cedar. And it's sometimes called flat cedar. But like I showed you before, like this is what it looks like. This is what the cedar leaves look like. And they are flat, and let's see, I had this little basket that my auntie gave me. So thank you, Susie, Auntie Susie, for this basket. So I started using this for my cedar. And so I have some cedar leaves in here that are freshly picked. And I have like my little spots that I know about around the city where I can go and get them. But I just usually pull the leaves off the branches. So I'll just take this, kind of pull all the leaves off of it, and then just store them like this. And so the other tree, the other cedar that's around here, it looks a little bit different than this. It's a little bit thicker, I guess is the only word that I can think to describe it. It's like a little thicker and denser. It's not as light. It's called red cedar. And that's more abundant, I think, down here in southern Minnesota. This northern white cedar is more abundant up north. But the red cedar, you can use that too, but it's, I don't know, just more preferred to use the white cedar, I guess. But I see that Blossom is saying the cedar in her backyard is different than this kind of cedar, or it might look different. And then, let's see. Your aunt peels the cedar and burns them and adds it to blue corn mush. Oh, wow. That sounds really good. I love blue corn mush. That's great. I went to that Owamini restaurant last weekend with my friend Holyoke, and we had that blue corn mush there, and it was really good. And my daughter always goes to that Cora's Kids program every year with Dream of Wild Health, and they always make blue corn mush, and that's like her favorite thing that they make when they're at when she's at Dream of Wild Health. So that's really cool. Yeah, adding the cedar to that would be really good. Oh yeah, Blossom, your sister brought some back from the res. That's awesome. One of our nephews is up north, up in Leech Lake, and I told him you better bring back some cedar. So he's 15, so he didn't really know what to look for. So then, I was kind of telling him, I was sending him pictures of what it looks like, and anyways, he ended up talking to his grandpa up there, and he said he's got a bag for me. So I'm looking forward to having some more cedar now when he gets back. But yeah, so that's kind of like what I know, I guess, about cedar tea. And it's only been 20 minutes, I guess. But that's like a little bit about what I know. And I can kind of also show you, like, once this is done simmering, you can use like a little bit of maple syrup. I usually do like cedar and maple. Tastes really good like that, but some people add honey, some people just drink it straight up. So I guess that kind of is up to you how you want to sweeten it or drink it. But I don't know. Does anybody have any questions? Hi, Blossom. Does anybody have any questions?
I don't know if anyone has any questions, but I do remember towards the beginning of the pandemic, I was living on the reservation, and my mom, she works at Bash's, and her coworkers started drinking cedar tea, and I think in a way it just helped them. I don't know, because it's on the res or Bash's employees, and they're essential workers that have to be there during lockdown, because we had lockdown for like 2 weeks, and then my mother had to go to work each day, and her coworkers weren't sure how to fight it at the beginning. They weren't sure what to do. They started wearing masks before Bashes was like, you have to wear a mask. They started wearing masks before that, and then they started drinking tea, just like medicine, to make themselves, I guess, not immune to it, but just to help them, because it is medicine. It does calm them down, especially when they're working such odd hours during a crisis. And I think in a way it did help them calm down. It made them relax, made them feel better about what could possibly come. And then so much had happened since then with all Indigenous communities. And I feel like a lot of communities did turn to cedar tea to sort of help them through this pandemic. That's why I felt like this workshop was very important, and it's good. I love learning more about it, but I do want to know more about your cedar tea. I don't know if it's iced tea. I've always imagined Sarah, who is our other artistic associate, she's always telling me about an iced tea. Do you also make it cold, or is that just me assuming that you make it cold too?
Yeah. So who was that was saying favorite is iced cedar tea? Was that you that posted that in the chat?
That was also me. Yes, everything is me.
No, yeah, I've made the cedar tea, like iced cedar tea, but I usually make it like what's it called? Like warm, and then ice it after that, I guess. So I've never done the like cold infusion where I like just put cedar in overnight to see. I don't know if that I've never tried that. I'm not sure if anybody out there has tried doing a cold infusion with cedar tea, but I have not. But I have had it iced, and it's super good iced. So, and Fern says it's good iced. Fern knows so much about plants and plant medicines and all this stuff. So Fern, I don't know if you can put in the comments or whatever, but if you've ever done a cold infusion.
Let's see. I'm seeing if I can add them on the camera, but that might not be possible. Let's see. She said, "I sounds great. Here in the PNW, folks sweep the floor with cedar as a kind of purification before important conversations and ceremonies." Wow.
That's awesome. Yeah, Fern's out in Seattle, so I think that's the Pacific Northwest.
Okay.
So the Native folks out there, it sounds like sweep the floor with cedar as a purification. That's really cool. And I also remember, what was it? The Cree up in Canada. I think they were saying that they go out and they gather fresh. I can't remember if it was cedar or spruce every day. Like every 3 days, the women will go out and gather fresh cedar or spruce and line the floor with that. So it's just like keeping your house fresh and keeping everything like pure and clean and cleanly. So I just think about like, I don't know, all the work, I guess, that goes into like that, doing those kinds of things, but also just what a beautiful lifestyle that is. And, sometimes we think about like the world that we live in these days and like how hard it is for people to like do that deep cleaning in their houses and stuff. But like our ancestors did that kind of stuff on like a regular basis as part of like daily life. So, yeah.
This brings me a memory like from my childhood. My grandma, she used to boil something, and I've always wondered what it was, because I'd be like in the house and all of a sudden she has this concoction she brewed, and then it cools down, and then she'd be outside like splashing it everywhere. So I think it's cedar with some other things. And I don't know, I never knew why she did that, but I just felt like it was like a protection, sort of like what Fern had said, protection or purification before important conversations and ceremonies. I just felt like it was a way to make sure that our minds were clear, or just like healthy, healthy minds.
Yeah, I think those are the kind of two teachings or two like uses or whatever you want to call it of like cedar that I've heard is for both protection and purification. And so I know a lot of people will hang cedar like a cedar like this like above their door for protection. I've heard people putting cedar in their moccasins when they're dancing or whatever for protection as well. Or so you know, and then Fern is saying that cedar is one of the oldest kind of plant species that predates the dinosaurs, which is, I did not know that. So yeah, our plant relatives are really like our elders, you know, and so they have so much to teach us. They've been here way longer than we have.
Oh my gosh. So this brings me back to one of like at the teachings. I feel there's so many things with cedar. There's like so many things to use cedar. And I remember why like cedar is important in my community is also because like in the winter it stays green because it has that lifelong livelihood. So that's why I'm looking at what Fern had also posted too as oldest living species. And I 100% believe that because I feel like they don't die unless you actually harm them physically or put them or do something harmful towards them, then they eventually die. But then I feel like if we're just living and then they're giving us oxygen, but then they're offering so much and then I don't know. It's just fascinating to me that cedar has been here forever. Oh, I'm trying to figure out how to add comments to this. Oh, it looks like Peter's here. You could talk all day about cedar. It is so true.
It's so true. And I just feel like, even though I feel like I know just like a couple things, I feel like about cedar, but you know, I'm willing to share couple things that I do know, but I always like to hear, you know, to just have these conversations with other Native people and learn about how they use this medicine or what kind of teachings that they've had about, you know, the different properties or ways that this medicine helps our people. So I just love to be able to have these conversations because I always learn something new.
My first time drinking cedar was actually in the Twin Cities. I went to the Four Sisters Farmers Market, and Brian Yazzie was right across from New Native Theater's booth. And then I don't know what happened. I think one of the kids came up to the booth and like, would you like some? Because they have samples. And then I was like, yes, I will try it. I was so nervous because I've never had cedar tea. Like I've used it for many other things, but I've never consumed cedar. And I drank it and it was delicious. That was my first cedar iced tea. And ever since then, I've been hooked. I've been addicted. I'm like an addict now. I'm kidding. No, I need it. I haven't had cedar tea for a while. I think that's why I've been quite obsessed with tea this whole pandemic.
Yeah, no, like Fern just said that, and Peter put that up in the on the thing that it's a gateway plant. I totally feel like that because cedar is just like one of those plants where it's kind of like easy to identify and really simple to make and tastes really good. So it's definitely like, I don't know, an easy plant to start working with and start learning about and um, tastes really good too. And so yeah, I know a lot of the native chefs here in the Twin Cities always have like cedar maple tea with their meals, and that's always like so good. So I wonder if they use cold infusions or if they make it hot and then ice it. So maybe that's something I can ask Brian or Sean Sherman or somebody.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to find out. So one thing that I learned from Yvette Nolan, because she had come to our theater company to direct her play, Unplugging, and our first meeting, I remember that we are talking about tea because we were thinking about tea and scene for auditions and how to sort of break the way how we do auditions. And then she said, just like medicine, you shouldn't consume too much tea because it's medicine. You don't overtake. You don't use too much or consume. So in a way, you sort of have to respect the tea, even if it's just like raspberry tea, you still respect that. You don't take too much because it's medicine. And that stuck with me for a long time. Well, just 3 months, I think. But it feels like a long time. I think this will conclude our Cedar Tea Workshop. And I feel like we should have another episode of Cedar Tea Workshops. Kidding.
Yeah.
Okay.
Before we end, I don't know if this is, I'll put some in a cup so that you guys can see it. So just hold on.
Okay. Bye, everyone. I'm just kidding. Maggie will be back to show us her tea.
Yeah, so I'm just going to get like a little bit of the water because it's been definitely like 20 minutes now. So I'll just get some of the water from the tea so you can kind of see the color, I guess. But you can kind of see it's like this very light green, like this faint kind of green color. And so that's pretty much it. It was just the handful of leaves, and then you just strain out the water and you put a little bit of maple in there and you're ready to go. So yeah.
This is so nice. Like you made tea during this whole conversation and now it's ready.
It's ready and now I'm going to drink it. So
Okay.
definitely.
Okay, then I will let you go. So this is our last, oh wait, hold on. This is our last tea workshop. Well, our last official workshop for the entire summer. We are producing the Unplugging outside. So I think there's a link in our website to get tickets to see the Unplugging, and you'll understand why we've been doing so many workshops this summer to lead up to the production. So thank you, Akiaha, for tuning in. Bye.